My name is Ava Mitchell, and I still remember the morning everything started to unravel, the taste of cheap coffee, the hum of flickering fluorescent lights overhead, the faint smell of dust and old electronics. I had no idea that I was walking straight into the biggest betrayal of my life, or that I'd someday look back and realize that the universe had handed me the opportunity to burn down something rotten and build something better. If you had told me then that I'd be fired, earn more than a year's salary, and watch the people who tried to crush me fall under their own weight, I would have thought you were insane. Back then, I was just trying to survive. I wasn't planning revenge. I wasn't even angry yet. Revenge doesn't announce itself. It waits. It watches. And when the moment is right, it quietly takes everything. I just didn't know I was already in its shadow. On my second day at the small private university, my new manager smiled as she handed me my KPI plan. 85 videos, 3 to 10 minutes each, all within 1 year. Alone. The smile she wore was pretty, almost motherly, encouraging, but her eyes were calculating, like she was watching someone place their head inside a guillotine they didn't notice. I was naive. I truly believed she saw potential in me. I know it's a challenge, she said sweetly, but I believe in you. Quality over quantity. Always. Don't stress. Those words would come back to haunt me. The office was a graveyard of outdated equipment, cameras that glitched at 720p, computers that crashed when I opened editing software, microphones with a constant hiss, like static whispering that the place had given up years ago. The walls were covered with faded posters about campus events from a decade earlier. So I used my own gear instead. My camera, my laptop, my software, my lights. Money I didn't have, for a job that barely paid. Still, I believed that talent and effort could override circumstance. I'd grown up hearing my dad say that hard work always paid off, even when he worked 3 jobs and rarely slept. Maybe that was why I pushed myself. I thought effort guaranteed fairness. That was my first mistake. For a month, my manager treated me well. She praised the first few videos, called me the future of the department, and occasionally dropped by offering coffee or asking about ideas. In meetings, she repeated my suggestions as if they were hers, but I didn't care. I just wanted to build something meaningful. The first 30 videos performed well. Students commented, professors shared them. The channel gained life. It made me feel like the long nights were worth it. Then she learned I smoked. It happened outside one afternoon, during a 10-minute break. I thought nothing of it. People smoke. Big deal. But when she found out, her warm mask vanished. Suddenly I was no longer the future. I was a stain she wanted scrubbed away. The next morning, I came in early. Still, she scolded me for looking tired. She nitpicked my appearance, my tone, my breaks. She questioned where I was, even when I was at my desk. It felt as if she wanted me to suffocate under her thumb. One day, a quiet colleague pulled me aside. She hates smokers, she whispered. She pushed out 3 people before you. Be careful. In that moment, I flashed back to my first day, her sweet voice, her encouragement, a lie, a trap. But I didn't quit. Not because I liked her or the job, but because I needed the money. My parents couldn't support me anymore, and I refused to quit just because someone in power wanted me gone. So I stayed, even when my mental health began to crack. I worked overtime nearly every day, 10, sometimes 12 hours. My fingertips ached from editing. My eyes burned. I smelled like stale cigarettes and the inside of old offices. I hardly saw sunlight. At night, I'd lie awake, wondering why people change, how kindness becomes cruelty, the moment judgment takes its place. Sometimes I heard my father's voice telling me to keep pushing. No one can take your talent, Ava. I clung to that. 5 months in, I had completed 30 videos. Under the circumstances, that was a miracle. But to her, it was ammunition. One morning, a message came. Director's office. Now. My heart pounded as I walked down the hallway. The air felt colder. Students chatted nearby, unaware that my world was shaking. The director didn't ask how I was or if I understood why I was there. She simply began reading numbers in a clinical voice. 30 of 85 videos completed. Behind schedule. Must make business decisions. Move forward strategically. I tried to explain. The outdated equipment. The overtime. The original promise of quality over quantity. The success of the videos I had released. When I entered, my manager sat beside the director, hands folded neatly, face set in a mask of disappointment. But her eyes betrayed excitement, like she'd been waiting for this. My manager interrupted, pretending she barely remembered that conversation. "I only told her to try," she said mildly. "I expected her to manage her time better." Then I made the mistake of asking the obvious. "How will you meet the KPI without someone to produce content?" My manager smirked. "We'll hire a professional production house." Her confidence was too sharp, too rehearsed. The director nodded. "You don't need to worry, Ava. She'll get the job done." In that moment, something inside me hardened. They had no contacts, no database, no knowledge of the industry. I did. For the first time in months, I felt clarity. They thought they were cutting me loose. They were actually giving me leverage. I left the room feeling devastated on the surface because that's what they wanted to see. But underneath, a plan was already forming. A quiet, strategic spark. I returned to my desk, opened the directory I'd built for potential production partners, and methodically altered every single entry. Wrong emails, wrong phone numbers, wrong names except one. That single untouched entry belonged to a company where my friend Liam worked. He had always dreamed of directing bigger projects, but he'd never gotten the chance. We used to stay up late talking about creative work, how we wanted to create films that made people feel something. I called him that night. "Want a shot at changing your life?" I asked. "What do you need?" he replied, without hesitation. I explained everything, my firing, the impossible KPI, the plan to direct them to his company. He was stunned, but immediately on board. His general manager was thrilled when he heard the scale. They drafted a contract that same week, high 6-digit value, and for me a 15% finder's fee. For a moment, guilt slipped in. My dad's voice again. "Don't let anger steer your hands." Was this anger or justice? I wasn't sure yet. The next week, Liam's company pitched. But not alone, I coached him every night beforehand. We mapped out exactly what the director wanted to hear. Strategy, storytelling tone, campus themes, student voices. Everything I'd learned, pouring my life into those videos. The presentation was flawless. To the director, it felt like magic. To my manager, it felt like triumph. To Liam, it was opportunity. To me, it felt like reclaiming something stolen. The contract was signed immediately. No second thoughts, no negotiation. And just like that, the same people who pushed me out unknowingly handed success to my friend and money to me. The irony tasted sweet. For months, Liam's team delivered. Professional lighting, high-end cameras, specialists for everything. They produced videos in days that had taken me weeks. And in that time, I received my finder's fee month after month. More money than I had ever seen. More than 15 months of my old salary. I used part of it to travel Bali first. I remember waking up to ocean wind, sunlight bouncing off gentle waves. I hadn't felt peace like that in years. I started smiling again, sleeping again, breathing again. One afternoon, sitting by the pool, my phone buzzed. It was the colleague who once warned me. "You won't believe what just happened," she said, her voice buzzing with adrenaline. My former manager had been fired. Not quietly, publicly. She had pushed invoices through without approval, desperate to finish the KPI. She overspent the budget by more than 10 times. When the Chancellor discovered it, he exploded. The director tried to protect her, but ended up getting chewed out too. The manager was escorted out the same afternoon, face pale, hands shaking. My colleague told me, she kept saying, "Ava did this. Ava set me up." But no one believed her. She looked paranoid, desperate, unhinged. I imagined her standing in the center of that cold office, surrounded by the same dusty posters and flickering lights, only now stripped of control. The same hallway where she once tracked my minutes now watched her lose everything. A strange sadness flickered in me. Not sympathy, just recognition that power crumbles quickly when built on cruelty. I remembered the flashbacks of childhood, sitting with my dad in his old truck, grease on his hands, him telling me that people show their true colors when they have control over others. Never let someone decide your worth, he'd said. Once you give that away, it's hard to get back. He was right. I reclaimed mine. After her firing, the director tried to salvage the mess, but couldn't. The Chancellor launched an internal review. Projects froze. People whispered. The department became a storm of paperwork and panic. Their house of cards collapsed. Years later, when I walked the graduation stage at film school, my chest felt lighter. Liam flew in to celebrate. He had been promoted faster than he ever imagined. He hugged me and whispered, "You saved me, Ava." Maybe. But in truth, we saved each other. Sometimes, late at night, I replay everything. The office, the pitch, Bali, the fall. I wonder what would have happened if she never learned I smoked. Would she have stayed kind? Would I have stayed loyal? Probably. I would have given her my loyalty, my time, my talent. But betrayal changes people. Revenge taught me something important. It isn't always destruction. Sometimes it's redirection. I didn't hurt her. I didn't lie. I didn't steal. I just let her choices lead her where she was already heading. I simply refused to be dragged down with her. Now, when people ask how I started, I smile and tell them the truth. I was fired. It broke me. Then it freed me. They tried to bury me. They didn't know I was a seed. And somewhere in the quiet, after everything fell apart, I found myself again. Not through anger, but through choice. The sweetest revenge wasn't watching her fall. It was rising so high. She could never touch me again.